Well-rested weekend for the real Kyper and Bourne show. You guys good?
Great. You?
Inching closer.
To death?
No.
Oh.
Oh, my God. What do you got me buried 6 feet under already?
And we're all step by step.
Playoffs.
Oh.
Playoffs.
Well,
Not
I mean,
death.
Sorry.
I mean,
Are
if
those
you are a
Sammy,
Leaf,
Sammy usually mixes the two together.
if you are a
Playoff
Leaf
death.
fan,
Yeah.
could be inching closer.
It does feel like an inevitable march.
Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, Sportsnet 590, The Fan, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus. Happy to have you along with us, Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, and Jake the Snake Schultz. Toronto Maple Leafs. Looking good for a while.
God.
No, first period.
No, you're right.
Okay.
You're right. They were looking great.
Johnny T. What a wrist shot.
Buddy, he is rifling that thing right now.
Buddy, like it's a it's like a BB gun to him.
It is 7th straight 30-goal season.
But then the Predators, 5 straight goals. And here we are on a Monday morning.
No,
And
Monday night.
Feels like morning.
where do we go here? Where do you want to go? Like
It depends.
it's
How grumpy do you want to be?
well,
I'm not that grumpy.
It is disappointing that there's an opportunity here, and it still presents itself to win a division, which you haven't done yet, right?
Yep.
You haven't.
Yep.
Can you
That's
not-
the biggest thing that
Can
I'm
you not
frustrated about.
smell blood in the water right now? Like, why are they not? Like, you can touch it. The schedule's in your favor here. Why did it look like Saturday night like they didn't care about winning a division?
I was going to go back in our group chat to see at what time in the night you text us and we all agreed with you, cookie night.
Cookie night.
And I think it was around the time Lawton tipped in the goal to go up 3-0. And it just felt like it was going to be
One of those nights.
one of those nights. Everything goes in. And to me, it's like if they're going to smell blood, go ahead and smell blood. Make it a night where you get 6. You're already up 2 or 3 at that point, and you're probably going to win. They didn't score again after that, and part of it felt like it was because it felt like it was going to be easy, right? It didn't feel like it was going to be a night where you had to put in the work. They go into intermission. Nyes takes a penalty at the end of the first, and all of a sudden, goal disallowed, penalty end of the first. They score on the power play, the start of the second, and it was like Nashville mowed them down in that second period. And that's where you're saying, like, can't you smell blood? Can't you at least? God, it's really frustrating with the division sitting the way it is.
I talked a little bit about this after the game on Leafs Talk when I was particularly pissed off about the result of that game. But you try so hard to not watch these games and make big, sweeping, big picture proclamations about their chances going forward and their playoff stuff and all that. But God, like if they lose this division by 3 points, let's say, you're going to look back to that stupid Monday night where they blow a 2-goal lead to the literal worst team in the league, the San Jose Sharks, and you blow a 2-goal lead on a Saturday night in Nashville against what, the 30th or the 31st ranked team in the league? I don't think they're worse than Chicago. They're probably 30 or maybe 29 or whatever.
I don't know. Their stats are awfully close.
They are
Real bad.
That's an awful team. And I get it. One thing, they go in there, they jump you, they got a lead, like you can't fight back in the game, sure, whatever. But you were in cruise control. You were beating them, and they just went to sleep. And there's been a lot of times this year where there's just been these long, sleepy parts of games.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Let's get
you're right.
let's get Craig Berube's thoughts on what he saw. Clip 1, Derek.
Second period, odd man rushes against, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1 we gave up. Kind of got disconnected in the second period, in my opinion. And bottom line is that, we didn't defend well enough.
How do you explain that? Because it did seem like you guys
Yeah.
had the game under control.
Well, we had a real good first. I don't know. I mean, we just didn't. They came out. They looked more hungry than us in the second period. And they didn't give us a lot of room, but we didn't fight for it either.
Yeah, you gave it to him on a platter.
Yeah, and they didn't accept it. So what are the main frustrations for me, it's one that we've talked about 100 times this season. Not sure anyone's going to have anything new to offer it, but watching Morgan Rielly defend that 2-on-2 with Brandon Carlo, where he doesn't pressure the entry, even though they have numbers, and then he sags way off his guy, even though Carlo covers his guy. What is that? It's simple 2-on-2 hockey. Like, he can't defend or doesn't want to defend. He's so passive.
Well, if you look back at it, I think he's not in great position, so he's not in any position to defend.
Like, he's skating forwards with the guy
the whole time. The whole time he's skating forward,
which is okay. You can do that if you close.
Which he
or
was
pressure.
Which he was on his way to closing.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I mean, I watched it 2 or 3 times, and whether or not Carlo should have come over and covered for him or not, maybe it's the right play. You saw it a couple times.
Yeah,
I know
I think it's the right play.
Your feedback is it's the right play, but what isn't the right play between the two of them is like no communication.
Mm-hmm.
No, none. Not even. To me, it doesn't look like they called a switch. They didn't acknowledge my man. It just looked like they were both unsure of who they had.
You know, you can find a number of instances where communication seems concerning. So in the neutral zone, one of the plays, who shoots it in the net on the 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 for Nashville? There's I forget.
Kiefer Bellows?
Kiefer Bellows.
Yes.
And there's a pinch with it's either
McCabe.
Kampf
No, it's
or
McCabe.
Yeah, it's McCabe, and it's either Kampf or Matthews. It's center that get crossed up, and Matthews, and they end up behind. They didn't look like they communicated on that one. One of the early days, Carlo had the back into Tavares, and the two of them didn't communicate about the guy off the backside. I feel like it's become a theme from this back end. They have the play in front of them. They need to be talk, yell, communicate. I put it on those guys that the Leafs D don't seem to talk enough. Help the guys out. Let them know who you want to take, and it'll make everything a lot easier.
That's exactly what I saw. It's particularly on the crossover between Carlo and
You're right
Morgan.
that if they called a switch there, it would have been very easy to defend.
Really easy.
But it's also just you got your guy, I get my guy. You know. But you're right. If you talk, you can play it differently. Just you need to send that message. But
all right, let's get Craig Berube's thoughts on the mistakes Saturday night.
I don't know if I'm surprised. I mean, there's things that happen throughout the year, mistakes like that, mental mistakes, and, it could be a number of things. I haven't seen the mental mistakes like we made tonight in a while. So we'll look at it. We'll discuss it with our team and go over things, and we'll go over how we looked in the first period too. So, like I said, it's a flip of a switch there for me. Thank you.
I really thought after Saturday night we get a more vocal Craig Berube.
Mm-hmm.
And he just does not want to go there with anybody right now.
You have theorized, though.
Not
like Sheldon on Kovacevic this weekend.
Wow.
You see that?
Do you have that?
Yeah, I got to grab it. I was going to get it for the National.
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But he does not want to do that. And I do buy into not necessarily trying to coach these guys through the media, but you gotta, I think it's a little bit too overprotective of him right now.
Yeah.
It's too much for me. And I think it's important that, first of all, if he's giving it to them behind the scenes, that's good.
Right.
But there's a lot of people out there that are frustrated, Leaf fans, that probably would like to hear a little bit more accountability than.
And I don't think it's bad.
Did you guys want to do, like, we have the video of the Sheldon Keefe Kovacevic thing, if you want to save it now, or do you want to go
Yeah,
for
no. It's,
Okay.
it's not relevant
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
doing the national?
I think what's, even Andrew Burnett came down on the guys prior to that. Hockey Night in Canada talked about his hard comments on a team that's underachieved.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm asking if it's relevant is because, is this a directive? Is this like a mission statement where
He did that, and I won't. Is that what you're saying?
No, like Sheldon lost his cool, 3 times in a post-game thing here. Soft and purposeless, need more from the stars. Like, you can go back and you can remember it. But the reason they stick out is because the next day in the media, he was apologizing. He was coming out and saying that, like, not, I'm sorry, but like in his words, saying that he kind of groveling a little bit. And Berube hasn't done it at all. Is this just something with they understand the market and they know the way that we do talk about it? They just don't want it ever?
What I'm hearing you say is, are Brendan Shanahan and or Brad Treliving saying to their coaches, there's enough pressure in this market, we don't want you to add to it?
Yes, that is what I'm asking.
We don't want you to pile on the
Is that
guys
possible?
in public. I don't know.
It's less impossible every game that we see them with some mistakes where it doesn't get singled out. Like nothing's getting singled out, right? Other than mistakes for a blanket.
But so this
statement.
seems relevant here. Is we have a clip on Berube. Why did you yell so much at practice?
So I saw some stuff on Twitter about him going really crazy at practice. And I went on Sportsnet this afternoon when I got to the office, and we have like B-roll of the practices, and I watched a lot of it.
Nothing.
It was a practice. Like,
Yeah.
he was yelling. He's dropped a few F-bombs amongst adult men at a hockey practice. Like, it didn't really seem like a lot to me, but you can play the clip and we can talk about it.
Sure. Clip 5.
Execution. Yeah, that's all. Didn't like the execution. Passing wasn't very sharp.
Did it get better in your
Yeah,
estimation?
got better. It's just the mindset coming in there. A day off sometimes, a little sleepy. Execution's not good.
So there you go. He dropped a few F-bombs at practice, and they asked him about
So
it.
there is a chance that he's being harder on them behind the scenes than we're seeing.
Maybe there's a chance he's not.
Also a chance he's not.
I don't know. I'm guessing.
Well, we're throwing stuff out there.
That's because what's what we do on this show.
That's right. Well, that's what radio is. It's 2 hours. We got to throw some stuff at the wall. So I'm going to, in the exact vein of what we're talking about, of throwing stuff at the wall, they go out in Nashville? Think they went out? Is that a team that went out the night before?
You're not the first person
Because
to.
I think they went out the night.
You're not the first person to bring it up. That it's a Friday.
Yeah.
You're in Nashville.
Yeah.
Fridays are really fun. in
I've
that
heard
town.
it's a good time.
Never been. Had some friends down there, said it was fantastic.
Really, really
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So we're not naive enough to think that, I don't know, a couple of late dinners maybe.
Yeah. I guess I
Couple
bring
of
that up.
couple of late barley sandwiches, barley milkshakes.
I guess I bring that up because it feels a little frustrating that it's like, well, they're in Nashville. They're going to go out. Well, they're in California. They're in Florida. They're going to, well, you're in Montreal. You got to go. It's like, okay, at some point, you don't have to go out.
I would never throw stones from my glass house about going out
I
in
moved
Nashville.
out of a glass house. I'm chucking them.
Like, I would be all in at Tootsie's, 100%. So I'm not going to judge them if they did, but
No,
they
no
did.
judgment
They did.
as men, but as hockey
We're
players.
only speaking based on the percentages
That's right.
of 22 guys.
Yes.
Okay.
And also other things. Yes. But yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's to
Yeah,
answer
it
your
was
question.
just- I'm just
They
throwing things
wouldn't
at
have
the
been the
wall.
first guys to try to maybe play guilty.
No.
So that's been around for
Yeah.
the game as long as the game's been around.
Well, just hoping that now with 3 weeks left in the season or whatever it is, and 2 points separating them from the division lead and everything that rides on that would be the end of that.
Yeah.
I would say, even as a player who was prone to going out, there's a point in the season where you go, all right, and you lock it down. Playoffs, a little bit before playoffs, we're probably in lock it down season.
Starting now.
Now. And then you go out and you go, okay, now.
Now.
At the same time, all of them, if they've decided to go out for a couple cold ones, they probably thought that they could beat the 30th best team in the league.
For sure.
When you're one of the top 10 teams in the league, you thought you could probably do that.
And I will. So we'll say sometimes you lose following something like that, but maybe Scott Lawton feels more a part of it now, or Carlo feels more a part of it, or maybe, maybe something comes of it where you feel like more of a brotherhood.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Now we're talking.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
let's
male
get-
bonding.
Let's get Berube's thoughts on Scott Lawton.
Clip 4.
Yeah, this is his best game, last game for sure. I know the goal was disallowed, but he was way more engaged in the game and, provided more.
What do you like about him on the wing?
It's, sometimes coming to a new team, it's less to think about, less to do. I don't want to put so much on him early on. But it's not that he's can't play center. He's played center a lot in his career, and he's played wing. So, I mean, he's played both. So I'm just trying to find some chemistry for him.
Let's have a lot of talk.
He did. That was his best look
By far.
Saturday.
That was his best
So
game.
Berube's not wrong.
Great pass to
Would have been nice.
Lorenz in the slot there. Tipped one in.
Just, we all got a sense that he was the first guy that knew his goal wasn't going to be allowed.
I know. He should have faked it a little, right?
No,
it's too high.
I think
It wasn't even close.
I think it just ran on maybe what he's felt the last 10 days now.
Just Eeyore, just
I
that's
just
not gonna work either.
I'm watching him wear all of it,
for sure.
right? The trade, I don't know whether or not he truly wanted to get traded or not. Apparently he loved it in Philly.
Yeah.
And in a perfect world would have liked to stay, but then you come home and then there's that home thing, which I've experienced. And if it's not going well, it's not a good feeling.
No,
It's not. It's more weight on your shoulders. I think he's going to hit a threshold soon where it's going to be exhausting,
Mhm.
right? The constant and it's just he's just going to have the attitude where it's like I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore, and that'll be. To me, that'll be the point where he can start showing more of who he is.
It'll be freeing for sure.
Freeing.
I want to read a quote from Eric Johnson, who was his teammate in Philly, who talked about him wanting to come to Toronto if he went anywhere and saying all that good stuff. And he says he was super excited to go there, grew up cheering for the Leafs. He says it's tough when you come from a franchise you've been your whole career, and then you come somewhere new. It's just a shell shock. You have to get used to so many different things. There's a huge adjustment period, and it'll take some time, I'm sure. But I'm not worried about him. He's a total gamer and a guy you just want on your team. So, the hope is that the words gamer are important there. And this is a guy who is able to rise up and, we've talked about team A, team B. If he can make team B stronger and include it more, bring it closer to team A, that would be a good thing.
Can I ask you a question about Lawton and his deployment and the way that he's sort of played on this team up until this point? Plays 9:52 on Saturday night. I guess they're chasing the game at the end.
Lowest of the forwards.
He's been on the left wing on the fourth line. He's played fourth line center here. Was there any chance that this is a miscommunication between Berube and Treliving in terms of his want of this guy? Like, he had him early, right? He was the coach of it in Philly, had him, knows him. Like, not like he's sending a message, but his message that he's sending is this is how he's deploying him, and just this is what kind of player he thinks he is, as opposed to what the general manager does. Does that happen?
I'm going to put words in Kip's mouth, but I feel like you think that Berube's been waiting for him to earn the minutes to give him more.
I think, yes, in many ways, I agree with you, but I think there's also a mode or a mechanism here to kind of protect him a little bit until he can find whatever, they envisioned for him.
Mm-hmm.
And is there still a chance that he could be a third-line centerman? Like, this is why you traded for him. All season long, the number one priority until it was or wasn't was we need a depth centerman.
Yeah.
And now it's like no longer there. He's playing wing on the fourth line.
Well, on practice today, he's on the wing with Domi and Robertson. So Domi's playing center with Lawton playing left wing.
I think the thought is that they have to find a way to work him back into the center iceman they thought they traded for.
What's killing me right now is Berube says he works in pairs, and I don't know if that's one of the things we have, but he talks about forwards. Works in pairs. It's Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Nylander. And then why is Domi Robertson a pair? Why are what about that is like, okay, that's one of our pairs? I don't think it should be. I think so. Who are the three best offensive forwards that they have? It's probably Lawton, Domi, and Robertson past, the top six. So I guess
we don't
that's
put Kampf and Holmberg in there. Yarncroc.
Yeah.
Yarncroc.
Yarncroc, but you're looking at Florida's third line of Luosterainen, Lundell, Rodriguez. In Tampa Bay's got Bjorkstrand, Paul, Gonsalves, or Gonhalves. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
They've got pretty darn good third lines. It's going to be curious to see how that works out. In the second to last game, they actually played Lorenz Kampf and Yarncroc, or Lorenz Kampf and whoever it was, more than the Domi line. So they're still working on that bottom six.
I just think that I'm not sure if he was just a little bit overrated on the trade. That's the only thing that kind of worries me. That he's more of who he is right now, and hopefully he can get a bounce here and there, but he's a 10 or 15 goal scorer.
Yes.
On a good year.
Yeah.
15. On a bad year, he's 10.
Yeah.
And you can kind of fit him in short spurts anywhere between maybe the second line, the third line, and the fourth line, and he's not going to look overly out of place. But I don't know. I didn't watch Philly enough to really tell you what I thought the Leafs were getting, and I don't know.
To me, go ahead.
To me, the buildup, first of all, was like a guy that I would say, that sounds like a John Tortorella guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, John just traded him away, right?
Well, John didn't. But yeah.
If John wanted him, John would have kept him.
Yeah, but it's not where they're at in their arc, right?
Was it too inconsistent for him? Right? That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. Why did the Flyers trade him? Why he's 30? He's not 34. Why did the Flyers get rid of him?
Probably because they got a first-round pick and the third best prospect for my team for him.
I think that's certainly part of it, but I do think
they're going to try to make the playoffs next year.
Your point to,
I don't.
He scored like Max Domi has this year. I think.
Are the expectations too high right now for a bar that maybe is unachievable right now for him? And I don't know.
Question.
Can he get a lot better, or can we just back off the guy a little bit too?
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. First off, the back off the guy part. No, that's not on us to do or on anyone to do. They traded a lot for him. He's meant to be a part of this. We're here to evaluate him. It's not our job to soften his life. The other part is, right? The other part.
We've never really done that here.
Justin Bourne's getting a little tougher these days.
I'm just saying, we all have a job to do. This is ours. He can do his.
This is literally the job.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey.
But
you're right.
But I do think it could be our job to adjust maybe people's expectations of what it was are blown out of proportion because of the cost.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
But, could you give him a taste? Give him a taste.
And to that point, yes, I would like to tack that on, that I would like to see him given an opportunity with a couple of guys who can hockey.
Give him 2 shifts with Nylander and Tavares one time, or just don't keep plugging him away on the fourth line.
Tough to get a rhythm going when you're playing 3 minutes a period.
It's a chicken and an egg situation here where you clearly want a new guy to earn minutes, but you want this guy to be big for you.
Would you like him and McMahon to kind of play off of each other?
For sure.
I think there's a great way to create another line by looking at one of those left wingers, Nyes, McMahon, and you're still going to have to plug someone in up above. But
is there any way, and maybe this is crazy because Nyes has been good, but is there any way that you put Domi up there and you try to create something with Nyes and Lawton and Roberts, or just try something else?
Yes, absolutely. Nyes, Lawton, Yarncroc, if he's
just
starting to play. He's not been great, but he's had a couple of days off here.
But when you're contractually obligated to keep the top six, the two guys, the two pairs together, as every coach in this history of this team has been,
right,
it's tough to do.
3 out of 4 games coming up between the Flyers, the Sharks, and Anaheim. We'll kind of exclude the Kings right now because they seem to be
it's a tough game.
That's
a tough game.
Tough team right now and a playoff ready team.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to think 3 of those games, there's ample opportunities to try different looks.
Yeah, you need 6 points. And I do think that whatever you want it to look like in playoffs now's a great time to do it because you're likely to have success here and you can get good vibes going with whatever. So if you want Lawton to have success, say he played his best game last game, we're going to plug him in this spot. I think you have a chance to really start building something. But, I mean, it sounds like it'll be Domi Robertson. It does sound like Craig Berube sees Domi and Robertson both in the playoff lineup, which is, Domi not surprising, but Robertson a little bit. And so?
Can I just make one more comment on
Totally.
the Lawton thing?
Yes.
This is one maybe more for Brad for living. Maybe don't wait till noon on the deadline day to address a need that everybody knew was there all year long.
I'm fully in on that.
You
That
know,
was a frustration for months.
and like he was in on the Rantanen thing, and he was juggling a bunch of different balls. The Shen thing that we all knew, like it's just
Well, that's because it was his safeguard.
I know, but it just
Which feels like you still spent the expensive price for the safeguard, which is not what they wanted either.
felt like a rush situation. And anyways, I do think Lawton can turn it around. I do think he can be a contributor to this team, but right now it's been a pretty bad start.
Indeed. On the other hand, Brandon Carlo's been pretty good.
You want to just follow? Did you like the Bobby McCann?
Okay, I understand him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Just because
Yeah.
we're on the subject.
yeah.
Play it.
6.
Well, he's got such good speed on that line. He's strong and big. He's got size and can skate. I think that he gets to so many pucks in the offensive zone on the forward check and then hangs on to it and uses his speed. So that's what I see with that line with him. And he's earned that spot, in my opinion.
So
Hey, there it is.
I wouldn't even want to begin to think about where this lineup would be without him.
I know.
He's like,
who, McMahon?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hunt's
Oh no, he's
box.
turned himself into a very.
When he plays with other
Important-
good players. When he
I know,
plays
but
the top
he's-
six,
but
he
he's-
disappears in the bottom
He's
six.
big, he's heavy,
Mhm.
and he can move.
For sure.
That's the biggest thing is getting in on pucks and creating opportunities in the offensive zone for guys.
And him and Nyes just have a look. Have a
You'll-
look that really can help this time of year.
The only problem with McMahon this year has been streakiness. Like he'll have stretches where he's not as valuable, and then he has stretches where he's awesome. So you kind of don't know where he is in his cycle of things, but right now is going pretty good.
Yeah. I think he has to kind of play in the top six to have
Yeah.
to look like he has. Because I think it just there's a little bit more space for him. He works well with Nylander and Tavares, I feel like, but he does get a little lost in the bottom
I'm
six.
totally in on Domi on the top line, and give me Nyes with Lawton and someone. I like that idea.
I'm fine for that look for the next couple of games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
I'm with you guys. I want to see some shuffling going on.
That would be good. Before we get to break and get to the great Gord Stellick, thoughts on Joseph Woll? He ends up giving up 4. Was, none of them terrible.
Yeah.
The 2
I
and 1.
know
just,
Bellows is
just a
coming
shot.
1,000 miles an hour, but it's just, to me, it's a save that he's made before.
Yeah.
Coming out, challenging,
Mhm.
and then finding a way to have it glance off his shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think any of this stuff right now, it doesn't feel like we're deciding who's going to be the game 1 starter until we get through versus Florida, at Tampa Bay. There's some games down the stretch where you're going to see guys play big games and you're going to go, okay, that's him or it isn't him. But
Yeah.
you're just waiting for one of them to grab it right now.
Okay, let's get a quick thought from Craig Berube on Joseph Woll.
I'm not sure what he could do on any of the goals, to be honest with you, when I look at it. Maybe the second one, the short side one, but, he made saves. And, in the third one, Tanny slides and it ends up going into the goalie. So put him, he got out of position, but there's nothing he can do about that. We just, we can't have breakdowns like that in the game. And for me, it's just, that's mental.
All right.
Even
Mental
Tanev's,
breakdowns.
even Tanev's slide was like maybe his worst slide of the season,
Yeah.
right? You don't ever see him have like these slides that
Potentially was sliding to the dance floor at Tootsie's the night before.
don't necessarily
I
work.
don't know about him.
Would you relax over there? You ready to put them all in the Betty Ford clinic or what?
No, listen. I'm the one who says I would have done it. I would have 100% gone out. Yeah. Listen, I'm the one. I'm the bad guy here. I just thought it was a funny joke. You still allowed to joke on this show? Holy. Tense.
I can assume Brandon Carlos doing everything that you've wanted and asked for, I think, in a guy that got traded for a top prospect and a pick.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, he's just solidified a pair. He's another guy I feel comfortable with out there. The other note there is just that this is a guy who's actually played playoff hockey. He's played 70-plus playoff games. He's been to a Stanley Cup final. You don't feel like he's going to get eaten up by the moment. He's been there, so I feel a little more comfortable with him. You don't? You got a little smirk over there?
Yeah, I don't know who punched him 3 times in the chest, but
it was McCarron.
Yeah. On the second one,
McCarron's soft.
just like
giant human.
Somebody
by the way.
cross-check
Sorry,
somebody, and just like there are times when I know they can do more of just a pushback, a little FU, just a tad, and I could have used some of it Saturday night.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go down, boys, don't go down like that. That's all. And I didn't like the 3 punches he took to the chest. Buddy, you're 6'5". On the second one, punch him back. Take a 2-minute penalty. I don't care. But just look at somebody and go, not tonight. I'm not letting you punch me in the chest 3 times.
Sure.
That's all.
Yeah.
McCarron's he's a monster.
I don't
I would have
care.
been scared of him too.
You don't fight him. That's the beauty of your team. You cross-check him back, and then you got 3 guys in a pile, and it's over. That's all.
McCarron is huge. He's 6'6", 240.
You're talking about a guy that is
So soft.
hey. You're talking like a guy who's scared.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good for you. It works for you. It shouldn't work for the guys on the ice.
All right, we got to get to Gord.
All right. That's all.
We'll go.
That's all. All right. We'll take a quick break. When we return, it's Stellicktricity in the house. Gord Stellick when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Welcome back to the program. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. All right, is he ready? He's wonderful. He's talented. Put your hands together for the lovely Gord Stellick.
Thank you, Kippy. Justin.
Have you recovered from filling in for Justin?
Gord, I owe you a couple of lunches. I appreciate you, pal. Thanks so much.
No, it was great. I'd love to hear about your Disney World trip ordeal and all that at some point. But Kippy, it was a fun week. A lot of people watched the show, so it was kind of nice. People know what I'm doing again on as far as the fan goes. So enjoyed it, and always great to hop on board.
Awesome stuff, Gord. So let's get right into it. The division is right there for the taking, Gord. It's a conversation that we had even when you were in couple weeks ago about the Toronto Maple Leafs and winning a division here, and then we watched what we watched Saturday night. Where's the concern level of blowing a lead and ultimately coming out with no points in Nashville?
So I kind of thought it through. My Monday morning analogy is I try to apply it to real life situations. So the worst 4 words to hear in a relationship are, we need to talk, right? That's brutal. That's tough. But the other one is when your partner says, how are we doing? And you go, fine, we're doing fine. Well, what does it mean? Fine. Well, we never go on those trips. We don't spend enough time together. Don't do whatever. No, but we're doing fine. And the Leafs are doing fine, but they've never done anything in the playoffs. They've never gone on those trips. They've never got to the next level. So we're doing fine, but we've done fine 8 other regular seasons, and it hasn't meant anything in the playoffs. So, Kippy, I do agree, and Justin, that I think something to play for, obviously, something different would be first place in your division. It should give you a better first-round matchup. It would give you home ice advantage. Does that make things finer, or is that the same old, same old? I don't really put a whole lot of stock in it. I just think it's a good kind of goal to have down this stretch drive.
Okay, forget about the Leafs. Why are you and Lisa not going on vacations? Talk to us, Gord. Let us know.
We're fine, Kipper. We're fine. I just wait. I can't go because Justin may be off today. And I got to go down like in 10 minutes notice to fill in with Kippy. It's like my Field of Dreams thing. So, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe I should adapt.
Well, yes, we really appreciate that. So looking at this team, there's some frustration at the potential of what they could be and how they haven't seemed to just they haven't taken this step. Do you feel like the way that Craig Berube has coached them gives them an opportunity later in the season to have more success? This different style is built for playoffs, right? So will it be different in playoffs?
Well, that's the hope, obviously, Justin. And, last year you really saw the first time that someone was made accountable and that Sheldon Keefe made himself accountable. Like he flat out said, I didn't finish the job. And that collectively is the management group, the ownership group, and the players. They have not finished the job. But for the first few years, it was about, let's not ruffle feathers, worry about things, what have you. So that's one of the tweaks. Austin Matthews being named captain when they could have waited another year was another one of those kind of tweaks. And then the two things I'm optimistic about or give me more optimism is the depth in goal. Now, you need one good goaltender to play great, but at least you have the chance for two, and hopefully that's the case. And I think there's a better D. So, and then the Berube coaching. Now, there's sort of mythical proportions, okay? There was 2019 when they won the Stanley Cup, and the Blues won just one playoff round after that, okay? So it's not like it was the magic dust every year. So it's kind of like going back to 2019. And to his credit, I mean, he was a huge part of pushing all those right buttons and getting the play a certain way. And that's the reason he's here. Okay, that's the reason he's here. And it's not a new coach, fresh coach without deep Stanley Cup playoff experience.
So I wanted so many things I want to get into still with you, but just to touch on that, what you just said, is there a chance that in 2019, just the style of play on the hard hockey, the straight lines, the dump and chase would just work better with guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Braden Shen than it would with Austin and Tavares and Järnkrok?
Well, exactly, because unlike when Mike Babcock came in, okay, and it was a blank canvas, and they had team way out of the playoffs. They started building pieces together. Like Craig Berube's coming in and he's going around the office and, hey, here's Mitch Marner, here's Austin Matthews, here's John Tavares, here's Morgan Riley. Like, it's not about who do you want to bring in, because there's nobody you're bringing in. Basically, it's about a certain finished product. So to your point, Kippy, I've always been about, and I think Berube's got that right feel that about, okay, there's things he can do, but also you can't get people to change the way they play, particularly when they've been basically a successful team. Like, you can get the Brett Hulls of the world, like Ken Hitchcock did, to adhere more to defense. That part's understood. There's minimum kind of team accountabilities. I'm not saying they were there before, but it's not like there were any consequences, so it seemed, in the playoffs. So we'll see. But that's a very valid point. Does it work 6 years later? Who knows? We'll find out.
One of those tweaks you mentioned was the C being transferred from Tavares to Matthews. Do you think there's anything to the weight of the C being moved in that direction? Because John Tavares just scored his 30th goal for the 7th time in the NHL. Last few games, he's rifling the puck in the net. He almost seems to be a little lighter.
So, great point, because it's funny. Like, I respected him as a leader. Don't get me wrong. But I don't believe you can be that serious. I think you got to be a little bit more, because I think that's the way the team, like teams that win have a little personality, a little kick-ass, a little flair, a little whatever, a little give and take with it. So I think maybe, that distraction or non-distraction has helped him. He's had a hell of a season. You're right. And the other one I thought of, here's my other analogy, Justin. I know you used to have cats in the background. I'm sorry. I remember one of them died when I asked. Sorry about that. I'm always upset when a pet dies. But, during COVID, right, we sat at home and we watched our pets too closely. And veterinarians made off like bandits because we'd sit and go, oh, little Fido and Muffy and Blue have a cough. I better take him in, right? And that's kind of how we're watching Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
Is he hurt? Isn't he hurt? Is the C weighing on him? Isn't the C weighing on him? Whatever. 2 weeks ago, he had a game that wasn't much of a game against Florida. Always got to be hurt. Then 2 weeks later, you talked about it last week, like some real vintage Austin Matthews games. So was the game 2 weeks ago just an off game for him, or is he actually hurt and he rose to the occasion? The 2 games a couple of games last week, like we're kind of micromanaging watching him. So it's interesting, the two parts of the C. that John Tavares is kind of free at last. And in Austin Matthews' case, it's been a really uneven ride this year.
You're watching and listening to Gord Stellick, Toronto Maple Leaf analyst for Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and also wants to remind everybody to have their pets spayed or neutered.
That's an important detail.
Yes.
Did you think you had the number one goalie figured out last week for the Toronto Maple Leafs in game one, or did the weekend confuse us more?
Well, it's a good kind of, I don't know if it's a good kind of confusion or not. So I've always been big on Joe Wall. And you look at his stats, like he hasn't played much in the playoffs, but his stats are ridiculous. Like both times he's had to play under unexpected circumstances. And I know it's not a ton of games, but his stats are ridiculously good. So he still is my guy, but I acknowledged whatever it was, Kippy, a week or 10 days ago, Anthony Stolarz, that I would have gone with the hot hand, that, he would have been the guy. And that's something Craig Berube has said, and I think open-minded and should be open-minded, and I would go with the hotter guy. But if they were 50-50, and it was rather than a coin toss, I would lean towards Joe Wall.
Yeah, I think that's where most of us are kind of settled here. Can't speak for you, Kip. The discussion we had earlier in the show was on new additions. We talked about Scott Laughton and him trying to find his way. Certainly, he hasn't been given much opportunity, but hasn't been awesome either. What do you think on his game? And is there still basically room for him to find himself as a Maple Leaf?
Well, again, I think in layman's terms, when you start new at a job and, you've like the other job you're at, and sometimes the first week or two don't go the way you want it to, right? It's a lot. And I think that one sequence with Seth Jones, where Seth Jones kept the puck in the blue line and Laughton was kind of blowing by early and whatever, kind of was, symbolic of what his first few games. By the way, Seth Jones ain't killing it in Florida either right now. But anyway, we'll see what he does in the playoffs. So yes, you know what Scott Laughton is. Okay, he's not a future. You know exactly what he can bring. My opinion now is you say to him, whatever number of games, say it's 3. You're going to play on one of the top 3 lines, the third line, and you're going to get 50, whatever it is, 14, 15, whatever minutes. That would be my suggestion, because you made the move to get him. Okay, you weren't stuck with him, and he's a guy that can be a real. What he does. He can be a really valuable contributor, and that's what you're hoping for. Hasn't been the case so far. He knows that. We all know that, and I think that would be to the solution right now. Is because you're not going out giving games. It's not like you're calling guys up, throwing them out there from the American Hockey League just to get that experience, but just to help hopefully bring out the best in him.
How important in the next 3 or 4 games is it to get Scott Laughton going, in your opinion, here? Because this market, you give up a first in prospects, no different than Foligno, and fans here, they don't let you forget, Gord.
Well, that's kind of after the fact. You're right. They don't, but they do move on more than say the Courtnall for Cordic trade or taking 3 Belleville Bulls in the first round, which seems to live in infamy. Okay, so I certainly know about not forgetting. I think they appreciate what the team's trying to do. Go for it, and that's why Kippy and Justin at the end of the playoffs, we talk about trade deadline pickups, and some flat out just don't work. Some flat just don't get going. Remember Nick Ritchie, right? Remember that?
Sure do.
Really. Kind of a can't miss, never got going. Michael Bunting did. Why? Who knows? Don't care. Not going to waste my time breaking it down. Just didn't get going. So I wouldn't say it's about 3 games, but at some point, you kind of say, man, if he has an indifferent regular season, then you probably can't give him a prominent role in the playoffs. So at some point, there is a need to get going, whatever that may be.
Last one for me, Gord, just in trying to build out the bottom 6, how much would you prioritize trying to find offense there? It seems like all those guys are kind of built for D, but it does feel like the Leafs are going to need a couple of goals past the top 6.
We need the Nick Paul goal for Tampa Bay. We need the Gary Volk goal that wrapped up the series against the Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah, Stefan Matteau. That's exactly it, Justin. So it's a mix of a few things, because we've had, I've lost track who we've had, okay? I've lost track who we've had on the 3rd and 4th lines. There's Blackwell one time, there's a Cherry. Every time I watch that game, I go, wasn't he with the Leafs for 2 months? There's a lot of those guys. So hopefully this year, yes, to answer your question about you got to get some offense along with the defense. Depth is so important in the playoffs. But again, your best players, your best players have to be vying for the Conn Smythe Trophy. You know what Nathan McKinnon did in Colorado. It took him a long time, right? It took him a few years, but about getting to that level, for example, and you know what Florida did about their big guns finally get going. So all these things have to work out, and then probably a little bit of luck, like when Berube's St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup. The conference final against Dallas, they got some bounces that really went their way, right? You know, it's usually like one round, kind of maybe a round you really didn't deserve to win. But anyway, well, let's focus on doing what makes you deserve to win. And yes, you've got to get a little bit of scoring from the third and fourth line and a little bit of scoring from the D.
Last one for me too, Gord. And I think from the beginning of training camp to where we are today, that we'd all agree that this team has done enough to tell us at least we're going to have a different feel or a different look to this team in the playoffs than we've had in the past. Yet we've seen blown leads creep in, including, you know, not a very good one. Or not a very good showing Saturday night. Are we going to be sitting here in 4 weeks, 4.5 weeks, saying like these guys once again didn't have the killer instinct to put teams away?
Whether, you know, and I never like to question things like that or question Hart, but what else can you think? What else can you think? What is that it factor? What is it that it factor? You know, Kippy, as you and I vied for Toronto Star columns, we're getting screwed now. They're all going baseball right now. You know, I'm getting punked on everything I try to throw out there, but we've discussed it before. And I got one in the hopper about the Roger Federer winning 54% of his points. And it made the difference winning 80% of his matches. Mm-hmm. So it could be that simple that, okay, the Leafs 51-49, no, 54%, like whatever that 3%, whatever that it factor is to your point, that last year, Game 7 in overtime worked in their way, and who knows what would have happened after that goes the Toronto Maple Leafs way. So we 100%. I don't even think I'll be lying in the fetal position anymore, Kipper. There's a couple of years I lay in the fetal position like a lot of Leaf fans do. I think now you'd kind of go, okay, we're fine. I think we're fine. I thought we're fine. But you still haven't taken me on a trip. And Kippy, by the way, you and I got to talk sometime, okay?
Uh-oh.
Just so you know. Yeah, okay.
I can't wait.
All right.
I'll get the fiesta going, okay?
Love it, Gord. As always, great having you on the show, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Okay.
Thanks,
See you guys.
Gordo. Appreciate it, buddy.
See you
Former
guys.
general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Mr. Gord Stellick.
I was trying to think of that St. Louis Blues team that won the Cup. That year, Pat Maroon had 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points.
Pat Maroon, Barbashev,
Yeah.
I think.
So,
Sammy Blaze.
yeah, O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Shen, Perron, Bozak, Jaden Schwartz, Robert Thomas,
Buddy, we're talking-
Sunquist,
we're-
Pat
we're-
Maroon,
we're talking a
Steen,
Bunch of meat and potato guys.
Barbashev. Yeah.
There was no world-class skill, that game-breaking world-class guys on that team. There was hard-working, up and down, led by Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah. No, it was a.
Oh my!
I'm so jealous.
It's
I've
just
never
incredible.
sneezed on
I
there.
think I've sneezed for 3 straight shows.
Yeah, it's
and
dusty
every
in here.
time I think, Kip never sneezes.
Are you
Some-
allergic to me? Is that what's going on here?
I don't know. I don't know what
But
it is.
but they also got it done on the blue line.
Yeah.
Like they were a team that won from the net on out. So it was
Petrangelo,
it was
Vince Dunn,
Bennington who
Colton
was
Parayko,
on
Jay
fire.
Bouwmeester, Joel
Bortuzzo.
Edmondson, Bortuzzo,
Yeah.
Carl Gunnarsson.
And Petrangelo will never be Cale Makar. He'll never be Quinn Hughes, that type of control of the game. But in so many other ways, he was
At
like,
that age, he was really
At
good.
20 points,
like,
26 playoff
really good.
Yeah.
Huge, rangy, shutdown, power play,
Yes.
penalty kill.
And you know,
Could do it all.
and didn't you love the chop on Draisaitl, the one he got suspended for?
Yeah, it was when he was in Vegas.
Yeah.
When he was
but I just
greasy.
mean like, because it's like, okay, this guy's that talented and he still can get angry.
Grease.
That's allowed.
Okay.
Berkey's outside, boys.
Ryan Burke, former NHL executive, Canucks, Ducks, Leafs, Flames, Penguins, in studio. NHL expansion, centralizing the draft, international competition. Where can we not go with Brian Burke?
Wherever we want, we can go.
Don't go away. The great Brian Burke in studio when we return to the Real Kipper and Bourne Show. All right, taking it up a notch or two or four. We welcome in Brian Burke in studio, former NHL executive. I see he's got Canucks, Ducks, Leafs, Flames, Penguins. He doesn't have our Hartford Whalers.
Oh, yeah.
Sammy.
My first team, my first trade.
I will I'll give you a mulligan on that one, Sammy. No problem. How are you, pal? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Nikki.
How are things? All right?
Everything's good.
See every once in a while pop up on my phone. Still doing a few shows here and there. Glad we got you finally, but you've been fairly busy, I think, around the circuit a little bit, and still consulting, I think, for women's hockey as well.
Yeah, still with the PWHL
Yeah.
PA, but winding down. I told them when I took the job I'd do 2 years, and a woman had to take over, and that's what's happened. So I'm on the back nine, or probably putting on 17, probably near the end. Still helping out. Love the product. Love the women.
And still working hard with Hockey Hall of Fame as well?
Yep, still on the selection committee.
And still managing to watch a ton of games and having probably an opinion just as passionate as you had like 30, 40 years ago, because we're coming off this Four Nations tournament, Berkey, where many of us weren't sure what we were going to get. Did you have any doubt at all that the guys would come out of it with so much, I don't know, venom, piss and vinegar, call it whatever you want?
No, I don't think anyone who said they saw that coming is being truthful. But I certainly laughed when I said it on the radio. People said, you think it'll be like a glorified All-Star game? You don't know what it's like. You put your sweater on, put that logo on, you're going to play hard. I didn't think they'd play this hard. It was fantastic.
And how has it been for you, with the cross-border relations here? Now, you're American.
I'm a dual.
You're a dual. Okay, that's good. So you've kind of been on both sides of this fence watching some of the...
When the U.S. is playing Canada, I'm cheering for the U.S. I hate to admit, I cheer for Canada every other day of the month, every other day of the year. But now when USA Canada, I'm USA.
Well, you've been involved with the USA program quite a bit.
I did 12 teams for Team USA.
Yeah.
2 Olympic teams.
Then you're
1 World
excused.
Cup.
We'll give you a pass
Yes.
on that.
When you...
What bothers me is when Canadians are playing Americans, they're going to cheer for Canadians. I get it, Canadian
Sure.
fans. But when Americans are playing anyone else, we're cheering for, Canada's playing the Russians, we're cheering for the Russians. The Canadians are cheering, or Canada plays U.S., or Russia plays U.S. The Canadians are cheering for Russians. I don't get that.
Yeah.
It's the new
Well,
it's the new rivalry,
new villain,
Canada
yeah.
versus the U.S.
It's not going to get better either right now.
No, it doesn't look like it is.
It isn't, and when you factor in all of the political landscape, and then we saw the 3 fights in 9 seconds. Is that what it was? 3 and 9, and now it's what I find really funny right now is like last night there was an episode between Kemper and Swayman. And now we are reporting on almost fights. They're actually like leading the news a little bit on these 2 goalies almost fighting. It's almost as if like there's this new discovery of fighting again. And like there's no talk about is it needed in the game anymore or concussions or anything. It's like, wow, we almost saw 2 goalies fighting last night. Too bad. Bad referees,
Yeah.
bad officials.
I was screaming at the officials too.
Yeah.
Yeah, get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
So
Let
is,
them go.
protecting here?
is it come back a little bit based on those
Not a
3
little
fights?
bit. I think it's come back nicely. I think it's been the last year or so when Florida played like they played, and Sam Bennett and Kachuk, they started a lot of stuff. I think fighting's coming back in. Toughest guy in the game right now is Olivier, in my view. That's become fashionable again, which I don't mind, because I've been a proponent of getting more fighting back in the game. I don't want to go back to the old days. Everyone says, oh, you're a dinosaur. No, I don't want, like when I played the American League, we had 3-hour games. We had 9 fights. Remember, we emptied the bench one night in Halifax. We had 4 skaters that left at the end of the game. It's crazy. I don't want to go back to that, but where we've gone is too sanitized for me.
Do you think the league is going to start promoting it a little bit more?
I hope so.
Well, there was a minute
You can
there.
make a comeback.
There was a minute there where it felt like, oh, it's all speed and skill, and that's the way the new game is going to be. But it's almost like people realize you can't play a physical contact sport and act like intimidation's not real.
Well, you can, but it's a joke. I mean, it leads to all the other violence that we don't want. High sticks and cheap shots and slew foots. When you have to fight, when you take a cheap shot at someone, you might have to answer the bell. It puts a great qualifier in the game, the way it's played. So to me, the one thing I don't like, well, I don't hate, but I don't like is the clean hit fights.
Mm-hmm.
What's come back is when you played, Nicky, the only two guys that had that protection were star player and a goalie.
Yeah.
Goalie got hit, you're fighting.
Yeah.
Star player got hit. Now it's every player gets a clean hit. Someone goes after. I don't like that. We got to find that balance somewhere.
As far as what it did to the game, what it did to build up the popularity, either in the U.S. or added in Canada, there's no question there seems to be a wave going on in the National Hockey League that's leading to a salary cap that's moving up tremendously, which is leading up, Berkey, the talk of maybe going to 34 teams, 36 teams. Say what you will about if there's enough players out there, the talent, whatever. Berkey, we're talking about $1.5 billion, $2 billion. Who's turning that down?
No one. But that doesn't make it right.
But should
the fact,
they?
the fact that they'll take the money, they're going to take the money. Players want to take the money. Owners want to take the money. They want to create the jobs that players do. The owners want to take the money. So it's going to happen. That doesn't mean it's right. I think it's a big mistake, huge mistake to increase the number of teams in the playoffs or the number of regular season games. Both really dumb ideas. And I agree with the league on most everything. I'm a big Bettman fan. Everyone knows that. We've been friends for 35 years. But that doesn't make this a sensible step or a meaningful step or the right step. Should be no. We grew up with 32. You have a parade now every 32 years. Let's not make that 40.
So what is the balance there between everyone tells all of us that Bettman's job is to work on behalf of the owners, right? That's his, though they're his bosses, I think is the common way to phrase it. But at what part of the role is being a steward of the game? Because I think of the level of play, and I don't think there's 4 more teams worth of guys in the American League that can skate beside, take your pick, McDavid, McKinnon, whoever.
Well, tell you an anecdote about Gary Bettman that will show you how pure he is when it comes to the focus of the game. He called me in my first year and he said, look, I'm getting pressure to expand. You got to assure me, you and Dave Nolan's got to sit down and show me there's enough player pool to add 2 more teams or 4 more teams. So his intentions were pure. I think they still are. I think the average person would say 2 more teams is not a problem. You look at the growth of college hockey, junior hockey, the expansion of new rules with major junior players being able to keep playing after they get done their junior eligibility. There's a radical change in the system. I think there's enough players to add 2 teams. That's not why I don't want to add 2 teams. The players are going to vote for, that's 40 new jobs, 46 new jobs. They're going to vote for 2 new teams. GM's going to vote, hey, it's 2 more GM jobs. The problem is at some point, the league would be too big. I think it's big enough now. And I think if you keep expanding, I think we are going to have attendance problems in a couple of buildings come on here soon anyway. I think it's time to say 32 is enough.
It's hard to follow.
Yeah.
So who's that kid in the third line on that team?
Maybe from a national perspective, JB, but from a regional one, like they haven't got too many markets wrong here in the last little while.
We
Whether
got
it's
Atlanta wrong
Vegas,
twice.
and they may go back to it.
Yeah, which would be that's a incredible mistake.
We
in my view.
had Ryan Smith on, the owner of.
Yeah, it's easy
Utah,
to take Bowson, Utah. Let's see how Utah works out. It looks great right now.
It does look great.
Very
right
small
now.
building, non-traditional market. The first 5 years isn't the hard part. The 6th and the year and beyond is the hard part. So let's see. It's a little early to say Utah's a success. It's been a great success for what? 14 months? Come on.
Okay.
Atlanta was too. Selling tickets the first year. Same thing with the PWHL. Selling out buildings in different buildings once is a lot harder than selling them every night.
I mean, there's no doubt it is a substantially different thing. So
Will PWHL make a mistake if they expand now?
Yes, I've told them that. They make a huge mistake. They don't listen to me. Nobody listens to me.
We're listening.
yeah.
No, the expansion's coming. No one's going to say it's 1.5. They paid 1.3 billion in Utah. They're not going to turn down 1.5 for Houston, whatever the number is. They're not. That doesn't mean it's smart. It just means you've got someone dumb enough to pay 1.5 million, and a league dumb enough to say we'll let you in for 1.5 billion. It doesn't mean it's smart. It doesn't mean it's sensible long term.
So the thing with like Houston and Phoenix, like it's just population of the cities. Is that what the great appeal is for Bettman? Like
Yes.
we want to be in the biggest American cities.
That's why they held on to Phoenix for so long, and it made sense. I was part of the vote on that. I was with the team then. They said we're losing money, but we got to keep it to 5 million DMA. We got to keep that market. We got to keep Phoenix. We got to keep Phoenix. We got to keep Phoenix. So we kept Phoenix. We beat it to death, and finally they gave up. But that doesn't mean Phoenix won't work as an NHL market. It's accustomed to hockey. Their hockey fans are great there. It'll go there again. They just got to get the right building location. I'm not convinced Utah works.
Yeah, like you think even like once they have a new building, you're in year 6, you're not a winning team. You could see it getting dicey.
It's not a traditional hockey market. It's not a big market compared to others. I have doubts about it. Hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Pray I'm wrong.
We've got Brian Burke in studio, former NHL executive, multiple teams, including mine in Hartford once upon a time. General manager meetings, Burkey. You miss them?
Yeah, I do. You got to swear a lot at those meetings. I don't get to swear so much. Here I can't swear. Sammy's got the little delay button on just in case. But no, I miss them. I thought a lot of the good things got done then. And my first one, I remember my first one, we worked on the rules. I was so intimidated by those senior guys like Lon Sather and Cliff and Harry Sinden were just, I didn't dare say a word.
You didn't say a word?
I didn't say a word the first couple. Then finally they yelled at me to say something.
Yeah. You said, I think you're a bunch of idiots.
Anything strike out of anything, either from rule changes to goalie interference to what do you do with the draft?
Well, the draft, I think, is a mistake, but I think Gary's doing the right thing on the draft. He said basically...
He knows it's a mistake, too.
Yeah, I think he thinks it's a mistake as well. The players, the GMs started that whole thing. A couple GMs had trouble getting back after the draft and were late for free agency and complained about it, and that's what started that whole thing. So it was a mistake. I think it'll go back to the old way. I think the mistake was, I'm hearing the price tag to go to the, wherever it was, the Sphere last year, was staggering. They don't want to make that mistake again, but I think they'd like to go back to the conventional draft, and Gary Bettman basically said that in the meetings, after the meetings.
Yeah, I was complaining the other day saying that's just like the cost of doing business. They have a unique, very cool event, but I understand a convention center in Columbus is probably a little bit more affordable than the Sphere.
Well, the cost of doing business, everyone says, oh, we have a decentralized draft, we'll save money. How are you going to save money? Everyone still flies in.
Right.
They go to their home city. So all the scouts from Sweden and Finland and they still all fly in. The scouts from Western Canada still fly to New York.
Right.
You don't save any goddamn money. You don't save a cent.
Do you need to fly them all in?
Yes, you do. You have to be there. You need the interaction. You need the time. I made 2 big deals on the draft floor. One of them was Chris Pronger in '93.
Yep.
I couldn't have done that, I don't think, if it hadn't been live.
Yeah.
I really think it would have been hard to do. And the Twins, for sure, I couldn't have done.
And so today, like I understand that they're not doing a centralized draft this year. People are still doing deals in person, talking at the draft, yeah?
Yes.
You would think they would recognize the value in that.
I think it's a handful of GMs. I've heard a couple names. I'm not going to name them. I've heard a couple
Under the
guys that
bus.
started complaining about it, and the guys said, "Oh, let's do that. We'll save a lot." It does save some wear and tear, but it's not like this notion that everyone says, "Oh, we'll save a lot of money." You don't save money. It's a misnomer. It's a joke. We should get back to what we did. It was the best draft in pro sports by a mile. Kid gets drafted, stands up, kisses his mom, hugs his dad, hugs his family members, goes down, puts on a sweater. How cool is that?
Yeah. Nothing like it. We had Luke Robitaille telling his great draft story. It feels like something we need to get back to.
They ran out of pins. on Luke.
I wouldn't let guys put hats on them when I drafts. That really pissed the league off.
You wouldn't let them put it because messing up their hair.
You take the picture and he's got his arms around his mom and dad. You can't see his face.
Yeah.
Because of the brim of the cap. So I wouldn't let the guys put hats on.
I like that
And
rule.
I've had moms that players I drafted call me afterwards and say thank you.
Yeah.
Looked at all the pictures. My son's the only one you could see. But the league got mad at me for that. So.
What do you see around the league? Like we could have 6 or 7 teams out of Canada make the Stanley Cup playoffs.
That would be
here.
awesome. The one thing Bettman said that I agree with wholeheartedly is the league has never been in a better place, especially now with, like you said, Nikki, fighting coming back a little bit. The games are great. The races are great. There is parity. There's a bunch of teams still alive. The Canadian teams are all doing well right now. So it's been a great year for the Canadian teams. Been a great year for the NHL.
And be a great year for Sportsnet if we can get 6 or 7 Canadian teams in the mix. You know, we have an hour before you're on where we talk just about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know how closely you follow them, but are things going to be different this year, Berkey, for the Leafs?
Depending on where they finish and who they play, I think the order of finish is really critical. They're clearly better. The Leafs are clearly a better team than they were.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the changes the tree has made are good. I like the new coach a lot. I don't know if they get a different result. Looking at the teams, the teams that got better. Florida got better. You know, Toronto got better, but I'm not sure they're good enough to beat the reigning champions. Tampa got better. You look around, Dallas got better. Winnipeg got better.
So how much luck was
got better. Ottawa got better.
Yeah. So how much luck was involved for you when you would have a team going into playoffs where you felt like this year I have a team, this year I don't have a team? How much of it just comes down to like bounces over a 2-week period?
I never did much at the deadline if I thought I had a chance. The year we won it all, I brought in Brad May. And Brad May was a critical guy for our team. He's a glue guy. Mm-hmm. He was a support guy. He wasn't a star. It wasn't like some of these other moves. Like wasn't bringing in Rantanen or something like that.
Right.
So it was. I think the trade deadline's overrated. I checked again before we came on air. They're only awarding 1 cup this year. Right. So these teams that loaded up. Look at the West. Someone's going down hard.
Yeah.
That spent a lot of money and assets to get guys, picks, players. Someone's going out fast and hard in a pine box.
How much pressure is on general managers that go in heavily at the trade deadline? And I'll use Brad Treliving as an example on Scott Lawton, where it wasn't cheap, right? And he hasn't had much success with the points, spending far too much time in his own zone. How much pressure is it on the Leafs that they find a place for this guy to fit in moving forward? Or, Berkey, do you not worry about that so much because the deal's done? You ain't going back. You still got a dozen games to go. But how much of a priority would it be on a team, not just Scott, but any team, to make sure that the general manager looks good on a trade?
I've never even mentioned that to my coach, how I look on the trade. I never even mentioned that to him. I wouldn't mention it to him. I remember one time when I first got to Calgary, I was asked by Bob Hartley if I could dress so-and-so. And I said, you dress whomever you like. This is after Jay Feaster came out. And I said, you dress whoever you like. And he said, well, I don't want to make you look bad. I said, don't worry about how I look. Just worry about winning games. Mm-hmm. So to me, it wouldn't be that. It's more a belief that they believe in this guy. They got to find him a place to play because he's a good player. I think that was a good pickup. Hasn't worked out so far, but it will, I believe.
So tell us about the evolution of the role of president and GM in front offices, because it felt like for years when I was younger, president was a business side role. And now you see, Montreal and Vancouver and some of these president roles, and I can't speak to how yours was, but it feels like they're much more involved in the actual hockey decisions than they used to be.
When I was president of a couple teams, the only one I was ever truly the president was in Vancouver because I ran the business. Dave Cobb was my right-hand man, and Dave Cobb and I ran the business. Everything from ticket prices to ad campaigns, television commercials, music, playlists, everything. Whole thing, start to finish, top to bottom. That was the only team I ever ran the business on completely. With the Leafs, I never did. Richard Petty did that. And in the Calgary and Pittsburgh, I was president of hockey operations only. Mm-hmm. So the true president's a very different job. President of Hockey Ops is oversee the GM, watch the farm team play. Like in Pittsburgh, I was a principal contact with the farm team. Go in and see Wilkes-Barre play and go on the road with them a couple times a year, do all that stuff, try and sign free agents, oversee the hockey side, not the business side.
They panned to Brendan Shanahan Saturday night in Nashville, and 10 years there, Berkey, and there's no question that there's a lot of pressure, I think, on him or the group in general to get the Leafs over the hump here. Not sure there's a question there, but other than the fact that as
a lot of questions
as a president, obviously a big part of maybe where his future lies is on the next dozen games to the first couple of rounds.
Well, I think that's the math that we all live with. And obviously, the longer you go without success as a team, the shorter the rope gets and the more pressure builds. I think Shanny's a great guy. I think he's done a really good job. But at some point, the math isn't going to work. And at some point, people are going to say it's time for a change. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that's not going to happen. I think Shanny's done a good job. I really like him personally and professionally. So I'm hoping that's not the case. The fact of the matter is, time runs out on every GM. We run out of time. They've had great success here, regular season. Report cards for the GM, the coach, star players are going to be in April and May, or May and June, not in April.
So, Berkey, how much room is there in the GM, president, sort of front office fraternity for new ideas, new ways of thinking? I'm thinking of Eric Tulsky when I ask this question, because I would say he's a bit of an outlier as someone who came from a totally different field and analytics nerd, to some people. And now he doesn't look the part compared to some people. How would that be welcome? Do you think there is a direction for GMs to go that's different, or do you think that guys like him will just stay as infrequent as they've been?
I think you'll see a blending of styles. I think the problem is everyone wants analytics, and everyone says analytics is great, analytics is great, analytics is great. I spoke at the Sloan School years ago, and I said analytics are like a lamppost to a drunk, useful for support, but not necessarily for illumination. That's the first and last time I've been asked to speak there.
Yeah.
Never been asked back since.
Yeah.
I think the key is it's one other tool in the toolbox. That's all it is. Anyone who thinks you can find a winning hockey team sitting in a laptop is an idiot. An idiot. But you can't disregard the advice and the contribution that they make. A person who ignores it is a bigger idiot. So our view is we'll worry first what we watch and what we see. We'll do our homework and find out more about these players. Then we'll put the analytics layer on and find out, are we looking at the wrong thing? Are we making a mistake? So it has a very critical role. I think to think you're going to find players sitting at a laptop is just dumb.
That reminds me, I would have paid big bucks to see you and Tom Dundon work together.
Oh, yeah, that would have lasted a real long time. I got to remember my thing here. I'll screw this up. I got to say hi to Kim Coates' mom. It's her birthday tomorrow, Joyce. Joyce Coates. Happy birthday tomorrow.
Happy birthday, Joyce.
Happy birthday. From
Kim Coates, a great Canadian actor, Saskatoon boy.
Love that.
The new owner, much different from when I broke into the league in the 90s, where it was Mr. Wirtz and Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Snyder in Philly.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at guys made a lot of money pretty fast on the internet, and they're hands on. They're hands on.
It's Jerry Jones. It's like you buy yourself a toy to play with.
Except Jerry Jones played Division I college football. He started at the University of Arkansas. He was a legitimate prospect football player, legitimate guy. He had working knowledge of the game at the college level. It's not an analogy to some guy that made $1 billion selling vacuum cleaners. Jesus Murphy, it's different.
Did Tom Dundon make a mistake trading for Rantanen?
Yes. And they made a nice recovery, a nice pivot on it. But, they didn't make their team any better, even though they've won 8 or 9 in a row. They thought they were adding a Stanley Cup piece, and they didn't do their homework, and they had to move them. Now, a nice pivot by Eric, Tulsky.
Yeah.
Nice pivot. Got a good player, a good young player, small but good. 2 first-round picks, I believe. Nice pivot. But their team didn't get better. It wasn't a success. It wasn't the haul they would have gotten if they'd had him signed and traded him.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was a mistake.
So are you surprised watching, since you left Pittsburgh, are you surprised watching where they're at?
Well, there's some limitations on what I'm allowed to say about Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
At least till June 30th. So.
Okay. Look forward to having you on July 2nd.
Yeah, no. A minute after it expires.
I can't root against Sid, though. I can't. I watched the game last night, and I know people say you must love it when Pittsburgh loses. I don't at all.
Yeah.
Not because of Sid and Tanger and Gino, and it was a pretty special group of guys.
I saw Sid is 2 goals shy of the 20th straight 20-goal season or something like that. 2 points short of the
Win the game.
point per game. That's what it is. Point
But
per game
who's
for 20
watching?
season. Apparently you are, at least.
God, I could just pepper you all day with questions here, but I'll start this
Just
one
no
with
order.
I'll follow up on Rantanen and Mitch Marner. 2 players.
By the way, I gotta interrupt.
Yeah.
I forgot one thing you asked about Gary Bettman and the playoff format. Gary has steadfastly resisted increasing the number of teams that make the playoffs, which I support as well.
Boo.
I'm really old school on that. This play-in and this other. The regular season is so intense right now because of the way we have it. We had a plan that you lose some of that intensity. Gary's been on the right side of that issue for me.
Okay, Rantanen and Marner, two markets in Colorado and Toronto that probably didn't envision both players possibly either not finishing the season or being in a different uniform the following season. Have you had a player that you teetered on that you didn't know, waited, weren't sure on, and, could the Leafs handle this differently? Could Colorado have handled this differently? How do you see all of that the last little
You're
while?
asking a question that requires me to think back more than about 24 months, so that's really hard. But no, I think, put it this way. I think once they brought his name up, once Carolina brought up Mitch's name, I think Tree had an obligation to take it to him. I don't think at that point, not a fiduciary obligation, like a legal obligation, but at some point, you have the obligation to not go to Mitch Marner later and say, they asked about you, and he said, I would have loved to go there. So I think at that point, you hate making the call probably because you know it's going to upset him, but you say, Mitch, they asked, I have to ask you, do you want to go to Carolina? He said no. I think it took him about 4 seconds to say no.
Have you had a player that you wanted to sign that was looking at unrestricted free agency and ended up leaving that you weren't sure about?
No, because we were much more discerning with our no trade clauses. That's one thing.
Everyone has one now.
One thing Tree inherited was a whole bunch of no trade, no move clauses, which are very different than a list of 8 or 10. Most I ever gave, I think, was 8 teams. And what burned my ass is the 8 teams would always be the 7 Canadian teams, whether the kids were Canadian or not. Even Canadian kids would put their names on the no trade list. I'm like, how can you do that? How can it all be 7 Canadian teams on your no trade list when you're Canadian?
Do you think, when we sit here and go, boy, no cups in Canada since 93, that's connected, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the league, I saw a response. The league said, well, since the salary cap came in, as many southern markets have won, many California Cups have won, as many, whatever. Like, it's not linked. The non-tax states won as many cups as the taxable states. I'm like, they were counting 2 California Cups, 1 cup in Anaheim. And I'm like, okay, but those are all kind of old now. My cup seems like a long time ago.
Yeah.
So in the 15, 18 years, it really hasn't worked that way. It's definitely a factor. I don't know what you do about it. It's definitely, tax structure is a factor. And who says it's not as crazy? The other little thing in the States is you get to deduct the mortgage, the interest you pay on your mortgage. So they subsidize the home buyer. And so you get to write that off too. You don't get to write that off in Canada. It's a huge tax saving.
The taxes came up at the general manager meetings, but I don't think it doesn't sound like anything's going to come out of it.
I don't think you can do much with it.
But is it a big issue?
Yes.
It is.
There's no way to just have it be pre-tax dollars?
What about with tariffs right now?
You're right.
It's really difficult thing to do. I'd like to see a way to come with take-home dollars or your cap dollars, but I'm not sure how to do that.
Yeah.
We'll solve it on another day.
More lawyers. Good news
More
for you.
lawyers.
We got one right here.
What's that? Yeah.
We got one right
I
here.
know, and actually showed out, I believe, his son
I got a
Patrick.
great
who
lawyer
recently
joke, but it's
became
not
one, too.
appropriate for this show.
I'm totally unsurprised by that.
Hey, awesome stuff, man. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Burke. Appreciate it.
That is the great Brian Burke. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, a little game time. Sammy McKee, more Real Kipper after the break, and Bourne.
Oh, thanks.
This hour, Real Kipper and Bourne, brought to you by Bet365. Go a little game time with Sammy McKee.
Oh boy, I don't have the right sheet. I don't have the right sheet. Oh, I do. I've only been doing this every day for 2 seasons, and I panic.
By playoffs, you got to have that thing memorized.
I'll
It's
try right
game
now. I'll try
time.
right now.
Okay.
I can't do it. It's game time. Presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So tons of college basketball over the weekend, and I'm sorry, Barney, you're Johnny's.
Oh, man.
The Red Storm. They got stormed.
They're
by-
going to return a few of their best players. They'll be
Yeah.
all right.
So, but now we're into the Sweet 16, where it's a lot of the favorites have made their way through. Not a ton of huge upsets. And Florida's still right there as the second favorite. Duke is the heavy favorite at plus 230. So lots of opportunities to maybe, have a bit of value down the list. But the one seeds who survived, as you would imagine, are the favorites going into the Sweet 16. Tonight on the ice, 4 games, including the Vancouver Canucks, who are in New Jersey to take on the Devils. We'll talk a little about this in news and notes after we're done with this segment. But Hoglander and Elias Pettersson, the shooter in the net one, the number 40,
Yeah,
not the defenseman. They both went back to Vancouver today.
I don't know if they have enough forwards.
And
Called up.
and Demko is starting tonight for the Devils. Oh, so not for the Devils. That'd be really bad if you're a Canucks fan. He's starting for the Canucks. So the Canucks are plus 115 underdogs against the Devils. I'm sure we'll talk about Sheldon Keefe's exploits in the news and notes as well. And the other games on the ice, Columbus and the New York Islanders, which all of a sudden is a big playoff race game. Catch the fever between those two.
I trust you to give me like the goods on the Islanders all year. And they're in, they're out, they stink, they're no good, they're not good. Like, this is really pretty much describing the whole league in general.
That's exactly what it is. And like, because Lou has always prioritized having these like veteran, good pro guys, you get a certain number of good games from them. And apparently that's all it takes to stay in the race.
And if you would like to, you can bet them as minus 135 favorites tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Later on, the Utah Hockey Club. Hopefully our new best friend, Ryan Smith, wasn't listening to Brian Burke because I don't want him to hear that because I want to go golfing with him in the summer. Anyways, they're big favorites tonight against Detroit in Utah, minus 170. The other game on the ice tonight is the Wild taking on the Dallas Stars. Stars, big favorites, as you would imagine, minus 210. And that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
My Isles 2 cents is getting Dobson back has been big. He's excellent. Carry on.
Okay.
He's really good.
Yeah.
Vancouver Canucks find themselves 5 points back of St. Louis, but do have 2 games in hand. But the Blues, winners of 8 of 10.
6 in a row, right?
6 in a row, 8 of 10. Like, they are New York Islanders of the East, or the West, where you go, like, how? We had you buried.
Yeah.
We had the funeral.
It's going to be sneaky tight. Once the games played get leveled out, 3 more from Calgary, 2 more from Vancouver, 2 more from Utah, that's going to look really tight. So every point matters. The Canucks, 4 games left on this road trip, if I'm not mistaken. New Jersey, Islanders, Columbus, Winnipeg to go. Going to need 3 wins there. Going to need 3 wins. So big one tonight. The Devils are tripping on their own skate laces every time they turn around. Obviously, seriously injured with no Hamilton, no Hughes.
Would you like to watch?
The coach is mad.
Would you like to watch Sheldon Keefe get angry?
Yeah, I do. I do want to watch this.
All right. Do we have that clip there, Jake? I think we have it.
Kovacevic just mentioned to us that he thinks the team kind of needs to have that playoff mentality going down the stretch here. Is that something
Kovacevic just needs to play better. That would help.
Oh, that made him mad. So,
In other words, that guy just needs to shut up
Correct.
and play.
but I actually watched the Kovacevic clip. He got totally misrepresented in that question. Like he didn't. He was. They weren't like asking him for some like his commentary on it. He basically, I forget exactly how the questions were phrased to him, but he said all the right things.
It was like the most stock, normal
just
answer about the
best
mentality.
thing we can do is just have that proper.
Somehow that's not about that.
Yeah.
That's the cherry on the ice cream.
It felt like Sheldon just didn't.
You
got to
go back to that first scoop of ice cream to figure what's going on between the two of them.
Yeah.
There is something that's been asked of that has not been delivered or vice versa. But there's a lot more history than just hearing that clip.
It's funny, in the first hour, Sam had the conversation about like how Sheldon didn't have many, if any, maybe one or two of those outbursts over his years.
Like I said, it was the soft and purposeless that was a real sticking point.
Mm-hmm.
And then he called out, he's like, our stars need to be better. Remember that?
Yeah.
Which is like totally fine.
Normal
then he had to
things.
come out and apologize for it after.
But so it does feel like I don't know if it's less eyeballs, it's more confidence being in the league longer where he can just kind of be himself a little bit more. But I can tell you, having been in the coach's office with Sheldon Keefe, that sort of energy is terrifying and regular. That is like that. There's the one clip from the Amazon All or Nothing series where the goalie coach, they give one up and the goalie coach is like, well, you can see it was tipped there. And Sheldon like interrupts and he's like, can we stop when he tips? Can we get a save on one that's tipped? That's allowed. Like that is more like behind the scenes stuff. So it makes me very happy to see and happy that it's not aimed at me.
I don't know if we can pull that clip up again, Jake, for anybody who's watching, but you can just see
As the question's
Yeah,
happening,
like, if
how
you
mad
were-
he's getting.
like his face is just getting madder and madder, and he's just ready to explode. And he's thinking, "Am I going to do this? Am I going to do this?" And then he just does it. Like you can just see it in his face. Look at him. Look at his
That
face.
playoff mentality going down the stretch. Or is that something that
Kovacevic just needs to play better.
I didn't even let him finish the question.
No, he's like, okay,
How about whatever you have to say about Kovacevic? He just needs to play better. Just play.
So I feel for him because
And
he
then
would,
the storm off.
he's
Like, that
sour.
was just not a hey anymore.
Well,
We're
if
good.
you look at this playoff
They're
sheet
not-
close enough,
They're not locked in.
like they're in playoffs. They're going to make playoffs. But
Yeah,
you
but
know,
they
there's 6-point lead on a playoff spot.
What should have been a top three lock is now crawling in.
now there's still a chance if the Leafs were to win the division that they could get the Devils.
I said, I don't
As
want to.
Sheldon Keefe beats the Leafs first round. A nice story for you.
I don't want to be Mr. Atotaso, but I have literally said this like on our first show of the year that this was a possibility.
Sheldon's gonna
But I
finally
said-
get
but I
over the
said it-
hump
but I said
against
it-
the
I
Leafs.
said it was going to be the other way around because the Devils going into this season were
Oh yeah, going to be
and
a
I-
one
and
seed potentially.
And I do feel for them because like preseason they were a cup favorite.
Mhm.
Everybody was talking about how their decor was
which last year
unbelievable.
they had 76 points or something.
Well, yeah, but they had the new goaltenders. Everybody talked about how bad they got ruined by their goalies last year.
Mhm.
Unbelievable decor. What was that stat that they had? Like the best 7-game stretch in NHL history when all those guys were healthy. or
7
whatever.
straight games under 20 shots allowed when they were healthy.
And like Hughes goes out for the year. Everybody's hurt. I do feel for Sheldon a bit because he went into a really good situation that got bad. So tough one.
Injuries, man. What can you do?
Hopefully he doesn't have to do a video like on the shores of the Hudson this year as opposed to
On an upside down plane with Captain Sully.
Devil
Now-
Nation.
Just off air, I kind of asked Brian Burke about Montreal Canadiens, and he didn't have a great feeling about them making the playoffs. And I'm like, Burkey, didn't you watch Saturday night?
It was
Did you
amazing.
not watch that comeback? Did you not feel the electricity in Montreal? Like
Vibes,
that
baby.
building
Vibes,
was
team.
on fuego.
Yeah. The all vibes teams this year are Montreal and Calgary, right?
Mhm.
Like teams that didn't think they'd be here, that have rallied to get in a spot. You know, the Flames, a couple of come from behind wins on this road trip. They won 3 straight, against very good teams, often from behind. Like, this is great vibes. Montreal is the same thing where it's like, St. Louis was he going to get fired? Is he going to finish the year? And all of a sudden, Slavkovsky's better. Suzuki's found his game. Caulfield's shooting it in. Things are kind of coming together. So
I know Hutson didn't end up with any points on Saturday night. I think he played 28 minutes.
got my Calder vote right now.
Plug your ears, Toronto Maple Leaf fans, and plug your ears, Habs fans, because I don't want this to show up on Habs Reddit, which it probably will. He's unbelievable.
Whoa.
He
What if
is-
he's Quinn Hughes?
He is unbelievable.
They're in the family.
Like
They're in that dynamic family.
well, they got his kid brothers lighting it up at a college in the States too. Like he was really good for their World Junior
Yeah,
team.
Washington Capitals. Pick,
Is
I
it
think.
Cole?
Cole?
Yeah,
Cole Hutson,
yeah. He was really good for the junior team. Like
Yeah.
all these American families.
This Hutson has 53 points as a rookie D-man this year. Will likely finish with over 60.
He's
dancing.
He's Josh Allen
Yeah.
for them.
They changed the franchise as the QB.
It really has.
Yeah.
There's just no. He dictates when he's out there.
Yeah.
As we're heaping praise on young prospects, have you guys seen his Gavin McKenna stuff?
No.
Like he's.
I mean, yes, I'm aware of him and that he's
But,
doing
like,
very well.
He in his last 6 games played. Would you like to guess how many points he has?
I don't know, 16.
Kipper?
What, 20?
Yeah, I'm in the 15 to 16 range.
26 points in his last 6 games.
Is he playing minor hockey?
He plays for the Medicine Hat Tigers.
26 points
in his
in
last
6
6
games?
in his last 6 games.
That's a lot.
So if
And
he's averaging 4.5 points.
Gavin McKenna closed out his draft year with 129 points and his -1 draft year with 129 points in 56 games. Over the past 40 years, Sidney Crosby is the only CHL player to have more in that type of season.
Oh, thank God we have another one coming.
Like we got another one, and we have this other. Like I was watching a thing about another kid that's playing in Regina that's even better. Like they got a few coming, and we got best on best, so we're okay. But this is next year. You're gonna see a real tank show.
Can we not put up
Come
the
on. Here
Connor
we go. Here
Bedard
we
pressure on guys anymore, please?
No.
Can we not
What
just?
does that mean, though, Kip? What does that mean?
It means
Should we not mention it? Should we
say there's a guy having a very good year, putting up a lot of points, and
what's
then that's it. Leave it at that. And
Okay.
just not
Like
all about superstardom and
so, we're not allowed to be excited about a kid
I
who has
think
26 points in
the
his last
really
6
good
games. Who's
guys
Canadian.
in the really good league have a chance to be really good, is my take.
I just
Here
don't
we go.
want them built up and then,
And Kipper's gonna come on here on his
Chopped
after his
down.
first game in the NHL.
What did
Jesus, too much ice.
What did
time.
Bedard do to this guy?
21
He's the
minutes.
WHL.
What did
That's
this-
what it is. He's just an OHL guy through and through. Hates the dub.
The whole it's the overhype.
No.
That's what we do now.
Yeah,
we
but that- we've
overhype.
always done that.
McDavid, he did
Not
okay.
to this degree.
Are you kidding me?
Not
Are
to
you
this
kidding
degree.
me?
I'm
Yes,
with
we
Sam on that.
did.
We've been- it's
Sid was the most hyped thing ever,
Sid was big for sure.
and so was McDavid.
Yep. No, I get it.
the Blackhawks are a shame. That's all.
Yeah, they're going to be still bad enough in 2026 to potentially get a shot at Gavin McKenna. So
Oh my God.
that'd be good for them. Speaking of Sid, I don't know if you guys have been following this, but he leads the NHL in points since the Four Nations break, 20 points, and now leads the NHL in 5-on-5 points for the season.
What a freak. 20th season in the NHL and still doing it on a team that is second worst in the East. Like, what are they without Sid? Oh, the worst is the answer.
Why doesn't he want to leave?
And then you don't get to watch
But
him
was
in the
this-
Stanley Cup playoffs.
Ever
Was this
again.
one of the 2 years of his 2-year deal? Or was it? Does that start
No, he
next
just
year?
signed it.
Yeah, this is the last year of his long one. No. He's so upset.
You know what's
He's
interesting?
he's
Yeah.
kicks in a 2-year deal.
Yeah. At 8.7.
But I told you he could. All he had to do was trade deadline. Say, I'll go to Colorado.
Yeah, and that's still always on the table for him. He can go when he
Always.
wants to go.
And I would bet that it will get revisited in the summer. Why wouldn't you need to? You need to stay on top of it. You need to check in. It's no more than a no thanks or no thanks.
Mhm.
I'm good. I'm staying. But
Yeah,
they'd have to stay on top of it. It's about Sid. It's about what he wants. If he's okay still babysitting next season and playing at this incredible high level.
So let me ask you this, okay? These guys skate together in Cole Harbor all the time in the summer. They're Nova Scotia guys, McKinnon and him.
Marchand.
And Marchand. So,
They're like
yeah, but like
glued to the hip.
one plays for Colorado already, and I know you've alluded to the fact that there could be whatever. When Nathan's talking to him and he says, why don't you play for Colorado? Why don't you come play for Colorado? What does he say back?
He laughs.
This is yeah.
He
Is he
laughs.
just wants to be the one sweater guy? Is that it?
He grew up. Was his first year? Did he live with Mario Lemieux?
Yes.
That's Penguins indoctrination from day one, baby. He's been a Penguin.
He's been Mario Jr. a little bit here in terms of the way he's carried himself, the way he's private, the way he's never gone on Instagram.
Never.
And
It's a right way to do it, by the way.
Not
Never
once
had
did
it.
I ever see him go, I've got a new girlfriend, but I want my privacy.
Oh, don't take a shot at my boy Tiger. He's going through a tough time.
Tiger catching his
Tiger.
What is that?
Oh boy, listen. I'm as diehard fan of Tiger Woods as you'll find. I have no comments at this time. No comments or questions at this time.
That's a weird dude.
Weird dude.
My God,
really weird.
Really
It's
weird.
like
I love Tiger as a golfer.
it's
Yeah,
like
he's
visiting a
strange
safari with a T-bone steak around your neck. What are you doing, Tiger?
Just maybe don't put that.
I think he's
out there.
acknowledging, yes, everyone, we are a couple, but we don't want to talk about being a couple.
Oh my God, that's weird.
Then don't
Anyways.
talk about it. That's
Anyways.
a good start.
I-
But
Yeah,
to my point,
I have-
Sid was always kind of like Mario. Like, where's Mario? Don't hear from him. Don't see him. Just like
Well, he was probably
right under the radar.
Playing golf, baby.
So now,
and in loving his life.
Hitting it a mile.
Loving his life.
so then what you're telling me is that the league is going to frozen envelope it for Gavin McKenna and Gavin
Penguin.
to the Penguins, and Gavin McKenna is going to be Sidney Crosby to Sidney Crosby's Mario Lemieux. That's what's about to happen.
If only we could figure out why any league would care about Pittsburgh that much.
Well, they already did. They saved the team by frozen envelope. That's like one of the best conspiracy theories ever, the hockey conspiracy, is that they frozen enveloped it. Ask Berkey about the Pittsburgh plan. He'll tell you. They won a damn lottery. Remember that?
Oh,
That was like one of the most
yeah.
famous quotes ever. It's like the Pittsburgh model.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I could see that happening.
Frozen envelope.
All right.
Just
All
like
right.
they should have done for the Leafs and Connor McDavid. Anyways,
NHL looking at element of surprise and handing out awards.
see that?
Yeah, I saw that. Elliot had a report that they're just going to prank guys to the
They're just going to
award.
show up. You won the Selke trophy. And they're going to be like, grocery shopping? Thanks. Sick.
Seriously, I need. Why? Who's pranking? For God's sakes,
Well,
an
it's
award?
It's not a prank.
No,
It appears
Elliot
that
said
the-
prank.
It appears that the heartwarming video,
Like, you're out
Josh
of ideas.
Allen received the Children's Hospital of Buffalo, or at the Children's Hospital of Buffalo, after winning the NFL MVP, has got the NHL thinking. So I guess they surprised him there, where he was
Buddy.
doing a charity thing, and that's where they told
I'm
him, and it
telling
was
you, this-
wonderful.
I'm not sure I've ever heard of a story more designed to piss Kipper off. Like this is, if you made one in a lab, AI generate one to piss off Kipper, this might be number one.
You know how many likes the NHL could get
Yeah.
with this new,
New viral video.
likes beyond belief.
Lane Hutson's girlfriend surprises him with a Calder trophy.
But I'm not.
Retweet.
I'm not shutting my phone off. I'm just gonna wait after surprise after surprise after surprise.
I don't know what the answer is because the award show stinks.
Yeah, just who cares? Just don't have it. Like who watches it? Who's it for?
Well, the NHL, you want to
Hey,
create events.
They're talking about like money,
They just have a draft.
and that is like
What do you mean? Talking about
no saving money or
Yeah.
spending money. Like just get rid of that show.
What are we
Get rid
trimming
of
all
it.
the fat? We can't have a couple things that cost extra money? I don't know.
First of all, the award show, everybody's tired, hungover. Nobody wants to go to that show.
Nope.
Shout out Keenan Thompson, he's off.
Okay. One more reminder. This hour of Real Kipper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Our thanks to Brian Burke.
That was awesome.
Came in to the studio, shared his thoughts. Did he swear at all on the show? Because he really
Borderline
wanted
swear,
to.
But nothing.
All right. Enjoy your games tonight. 4 on tap. Pick your favorite one and then join us back here tomorrow. And we get to do it all over again on the Real Kipper and Bourne Show. Have a great night, everybody.